Iran has said that the United States will have to drop its, quote, excessive demands in order to reach a deal over Tehran's nuclear program. The warning tempers a surge of optimism after talks between the two sides ended in Geneva on Thursday. While there was no major breakthrough, Washington and Tehran have said that good progress was made. Both have agreed to more talks in Vienna next week. The negotiations are being seen as a last-ditch bid to avert war. Well, for more on this, let's bring in Simon Mabon. He is an Iran and Middle East expert, and he is joining us now from Lancaster in the UK. Thank you so much for your time, Simon. So negotiations are continuing next week.
Thank you.
Do you think these talks between Iran and the U.S. can still avert a U.S. attack on Iran?
I would certainly hope so. I always say that diplomacy has to be the answer in these types of situations. The UN has been put in place for a reason. It has done generally a good job of averting large-scale conflict, although it's come in for a lot of criticism of late, of course. Now, I think the diplomatic resolution has to be the way forward here, because the horrors of what a conflict in the region between Iran and the United States could look like are devastating and potentially catastrophic. So I would certainly hope diplomacy has to be the answer here, and I would hope that a breakthrough can be reached, although it certainly will not be easy.
We've heard, in fact, and I'm wondering what you think about these comments, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance saying that he sees no risk of the U.S. entering long-term war in the Middle East. If there were to be a strike and a breakdown of these talks, what do you think it might look like?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, I guess. There are different types of scenarios that could foreseeably play out, ranging from tactical strikes of the sort that we saw last year to more targeted strikes that were aimed at Iranian leadership. The supreme leader, for example, President Trump has made veiled threats about him in the past, to something more substantial. And all of those are deeply worrying scenarios that are possibly on the table in light of everything that's going on right now. We've heard Marco Rubio talking about the issues with the talks and the issues around Iran's ballistic missile program, and the Iranians have in turn said that that is not up for negotiation. So while diplomacy has to be the option that must be taken forward, it is still something that is deeply contested, with debate over the actual parameters of the talks seemingly still up for grabs.
New protests, meanwhile, we're having reports of new protests flaring up at universities in Iran. Could they become as large as they were last month? I mean, how are you seeing things potentially developing there domestically?
Well, it's difficult to say because the anger hasn't gone away, I don't think. The roots of the protest that we saw in late 2025, early 2026 are still there. Inflation is still high. The cost of living is still high. There is still widespread anger at the situation, at the ways in which daily life across Iran is playing out. And there is increasing anger at the ways in which the regime, the Islamic Republic, has treated the protests previously, with reports of thousands of people being killed in repressive acts of counter-revolution. So there is anger there, but there is also fear, there is anxiety, there is deep-seated worry about what will happen next. And I guess that when you put all of that together, it creates a particularly precarious moment where people might not be as willing to go to the streets as they were last time, only sort of a month or so ago. But the anger is still there, and I think that's really important to remember.
I'd like to ask you, before we go, if you could perhaps comment on some recent reporting as well. And this is from the French paper, Le Figaro, reporting on alleged plans earlier this year to overthrow Iran's supreme leader. Tell us a little bit more about, what your thoughts were when you heard about that.
Well, it's the sort of thing that you would imagine has been considered by top officials in Iran. But I think it was very, very quickly shut down by Hassan Rouhani and others who said, look, this is not true. This is just psychological warfare and an attempt to sow dissent and foment division across the Islamic Republic. Now, Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, is obviously in a very, very weakened state in terms of his own health and in terms of his position within Iran and across the wider region. So I would not be surprised if these types of conversations had been happening. But to overthrow him in some type of internal coup d'etat would be an incredibly surprising thing to really get off the ground. And as far as I can tell, it didn't really get off the ground anywhere. It's been rejected and refuted by a lot of senior Iranian sources. So I think what this does is it tells us that the struggle to define Iran's future is going on and playing out in lots of different ways. But it also shows how precarious the situation is in Iran and its upper echelons of the leadership.
Middle East expert Simon Mabon, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.